we must hold ourselves to the highest standards before we can expect it from others. Trust. Trust is the lifeblood of our profession. We trust in our equipment, our training, and most importantly, each other.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the January 26, 2026 Housing Authority regular meeting to order. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting as noted in the city's website and as noted on the agenda. As a matter of housekeeping, I'd like to remind commissioners to keep their microphones muted unless they are speaking. The City of Santa Rosa is committed to creating a safe and inclusive environment free from disruption. We will not tolerate any hateful speech or actions and are well staffed to monitor that everyone is participating respectfully or they will be removed. If necessary, we will also immediately end the meeting. Clerk, please explain how public comments will be heard at today's meeting.
I will do that in just 1 second after I make sure they get the Zoom feed up. I'll be right back. Okay, thank you, and we're good to go. So after each agenda item, the chair will ask for Housing Authority Commissioner comments, and then we'll open the item for public comment. Once the chair calls for public comment, please go to the closest podium in the upper tier of chambers. I will then unmute your microphone and start the timer. Speakers are allowed to speak one time per item, up to 3 minutes. Additionally, there is one public comment period to speak on non-agenda matters, item 6. This is the time when any person may address the Housing Authority on matters listed, or not listed on the agenda, but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Housing Authority. To address the Housing Authority, you are requested to complete a speaker card and give it to the recording secretary.
Thank you. We'll move to item 2, which is remote participation in the Brown Act. Clerk, have we been notified of any commissioners who has requested to participate remotely?
We have not.
Thank you. Can we go to a roll call, please? And just before I ask the clerk to do a roll call for attendance to assist with streaming the meeting and capturing commissioners as they are speaking, I want to continue to remind commissioners to please ask the chair to be recognized before asking a question or making a comment. This will allow time for the cameras to shift to a new speaker. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Wimmer?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Fearon?
Here.
Commissioner Conti?
Here.
Commissioner Capio? Vice Chair Downey is absent, and Chair Owen.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all are present with the exception of Vice Chair Downey.
Thank you. I'll call to item number 4 and ask commissioners if there are any statements of abstentions. You're not hearing any. We'll move on to the next item, which is item 5, a study session. And Kate Goldfein will be presenting.
Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, there we go. All right, good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. I am Kate Goldfein, and this is the fiscal year 26-27 budget process and public input study session. And Megan Bassinger will kick it off.
Good afternoon. So this is part of our annual budget development process. So Kate and I are going to walk through a few slides to kind of outline how we anticipate the fiscal year 26-27 budget unfolding. So I'm going to start with some overall budget and program considerations. As I think many of you have seen and heard, we are currently operating in a relatively uncertain federal environment. So we do not have information yet on what our funding allocations will be for CDBG Home or the voucher program. Last week, there were indications that it is looking better at the federal level, but we are waiting for the House and Senate to approve those budgets. But most recent information was that CDBG and Home would be funded at the same level as the current fiscal year, and that the HUD voucher program would be provided some increased funding. But I would caution that increased funding for the voucher program would just translate into being able to hopefully sustain operations as the costs associated with vouchers do increase annually with rent increases and staffing expenses. The city also continues to operate with a budget deficit in the general fund. As you're aware, the programs that are administered under the Housing Authority are not within the purview of the general fund, but this is a factor that is influencing the department and the city as a whole. And then finally, kind of tying back to the voucher program, the rental assistance budget that we are provided by HUD and our total voucher allocation need to be balanced. So we have a maximum number of 1,925 vouchers that we can administer, but we need to do that within the budget amount provided by HUD. So we often are not able to come close to that. We're currently about 1,700 vouchers, and that is pushing 100% of our budget allocation. So it's a delicate balance that we have to maintain in order to administer the program. So that's kind of some setting the stage on where we're going. And then Kate's going to take over with some additional slides.
Thanks, Megan. And again, I'm Kate Goldfein, the Administrative Services Officer for the Housing and Community Services Department. And we're going to start with the new funding assumptions for fiscal year 26-27. And this is the budget that's going to go into effect on July 1st, 2026. So this kicks off our process for that budget. The Housing Authority is approximately 95% federally funded. The Housing Trust has several local sources and 2 federal sources, and our rental assistance programs, as Megan said, are 100% federally funded. So we're going to start with the Housing Trust local sources. Our largest source this year is real property transfer tax. The City Council has a policy where annually they allocate a percentage of real property transfer tax to homeless services and housing. It increases 5% annually. The city's finance department is budgeting for a total of $3.5 million of RPTT in 26-27. Housing and homeless services will receive 65% of that, which is $2.275 million. And right now we're thinking we'll split that between the Housing Trust and homeless services, which means the Housing Trust will get $1.137 million. The next source is impact fees. These are paid by developers for the impacts that their new market rate housing has on the surrounding area, and they pay this fee instead of including affordable housing in their development. There was a recent change in state law that allows developers to defer payments until their project is complete, rather than paying at the start. This has resulted in greatly reduced revenue for us this year. We budgeted for $1.3 million. Thus far this year, through today, we've only received $400,000. So I'm thinking that from now on, we'll budget this more like loan repayments. We'll budget conservatively and budget the money after we receive it rather than counting on receiving it. Loan repayments is our next source of revenue. We do budget that conservatively every year, around $100,000, and we use excess that we've received from the prior year in the coming year. So we've received in fiscal year 26-27, we're using $1.1 million in excess that we received from the prior fiscal year that ended June 30th. And then finally, our final local source is compliance fees in the Housing Trust at around $204,000 this year. Then moving to the Housing Trust federal funding. As Megan said, this is not finalized yet. We did get a prelim budget last Tuesday, which from Congress held CDBG and home flat, which would be great, not a reduction. HOPWA funding, that's the Housing Opportunities for Persons with HIV and AIDS. That is moving from being managed by us to being managed by the state this year. So that'll no longer be managed at our local level. The area will still be getting the funding. We don't anticipate the funding will end. We just won't manage it anymore. The state will manage it with face-to-face, the grantee, as far as we know so far. So you will not see that in your budget anymore. In the rental assistance programs, as Megan said, HUD provides us on two limits. They limit our number of vouchers and they limit our funding. We have, as Megan said, a voucher limit of 1,925. However, right now they're funding us to be able to lease up about 1,700 vouchers per month, about an 87% lease up rate. And they've continued to fund us at that amount. And as Megan said, the increases in the program should allow us, if this budget goes through, the budget they're proposing, to keep funding at that level. I don't anticipate us being able to fund more. The increases will allow us to keep pace with our increased expenses. And as you may remember, the EHV Emergency Housing Voucher Program, HUD is eliminating funding for that, and so we're awaiting approval to absorb those vouchers into our Housing Choice Voucher Program. Now we're going to move on to expenditure assumptions. So currently, administration is increasing slightly. I have preliminary overhead and information technology estimates from the finance department, and we're looking at under a 5% increase, so that's great. Staffing-wise, we are at the third of a 3-year contract for cost of living increases for staff of 4%, and staff who are not at the highest level of their salary will also get merit increases. And we are looking at benefits to stay flat or increase slightly. We're not requesting any new positions this fiscal year. We're keeping staffing flat at this point. In rental assistance, we expect housing voucher payments to continue to increase for current voucher holders, and we're using all available funding that we have. In the Housing Trust, we have to cover salary, benefits, and overhead for the existing staff. Funding that is left over after that is used for the Notice of Funding Availability process, where you will determine your funding priorities for housing development, rehab, conversion, preservation, et cetera, during your process. This is the budget process timeline. The Housing Authority's process runs concurrently with the cities. The Housing Authority is in green and the city is in red. So we're kicking off our process today with this study session. The City Council budget public hearing is tomorrow, so they will hear from, the city's finance department will present and hear from the public tomorrow for theirs. We will start developing the budget at the end of this week, and we'll do that through the month of February. In March, early March and April, we will present the budget to our finance department and to our city manager, along with all the other city departments, police, fire, transportation, finance, human resources, et cetera. We'll be back in front of you at the April meeting with a detailed budget presentation, and ideally, we would have our HUD would have released the budget, Congress would have approved the budget, and we would have our CDBG and home allocations at that time. They haven't in the last several years. It's been more like May, June by the time we've gotten those, but we can dream. And then in early May, we'll be back in front of the City Council with all of the other city departments to do our in-depth budget study session with them. We'll be back in front of you in our June meeting to ask you to adopt the Housing Authority's budget, and then we'll go to City Council with the rest of the city departments to ask them to adopt the budget at their meeting in June. So with that, I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from commissioners?
In terms of staffing levels, even though funding amounts would fluctuate, is there a solid staff? I mean, you're not, as people leave, you're not allowed to hire. There may be vacancies. What's the status?
So currently within Housing and Community Services, we do have very solid staffing. We have 27 FTEs throughout the department. The city has gone through various hiring freezes, but there have been previously exceptions made for any federally funded positions. I'm not anticipating vacancies coming up in the near future, and also through our funding sources we just outlined, we should be adequately funded to finance those positions.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
On the HOPA transfer to the state management, is that a benefit to us? That we no longer have to deal with it?
It is one less source that we are not managing locally. So in that regard, yes. And as long as our area gets to keep the funding and it's just managed at a different level, it's fine. We just want to ensure that our people that need the funding who are in our area get to continue to receive it, and it looks like that's what will happen.
Do you know why that state went in that direction?
I do. So the way that works is it's based on the number of people living with HIV and AIDS in our area. That determines at what level, who handles the funding at what level. And the number of people living with HIV and AIDS in our area has decreased below the level that we are allowed to handle the funding at a local level. So now it goes, and that's the way that the HOPWA funding allocation formula works. And so now it just goes to a higher level, but a higher level of funding oversight. But every indication that we have is that the state will still receive that funding, and it will still be used in our area for the people that need it.
Commissioner Smith?
On the impact fees that are being deferred, are you kind of keeping it like an informal list that we could get down the road to help you with budgeting, you know?
Yeah, great question. So I've been in contact with our Planning and Economic Development Department about that, and they're aware of the developments that are in progress and basically have said, short of calling them directly to see when they are going to finish, we don't have much information on when we think those fees are going to come in. So we know what's in progress, but as far as when we think we're going to get that money, it's less, we have less certainty than ever.
But you're aware of what could come in when it finally does come in?
Somewhat, assuming they all go through as planned, and they don't run out of money. And I would say this has made this much less certain, this law.
And if I could follow up on that, so the city is aware, so those fees are calculated when the building permit is pulled. So that is part of the permit record that is maintained by the Planning and Economic Development Department. In Housing and Community Services, we don't work with those records on a daily basis, but the city is in fact aware of the outstanding fees, and before the permit would be finalized, that would need to be paid.
That's good.
Commissioner Farron?
Yeah, thank you very much. On the HAPA, it's Housing and Community Development, Gustavo Vasquez, and at the state who's going to be administering that?
So that's correct. So it's going to transfer from HUD, so we were an entitlement jurisdiction through HUD, and it'll be going to HCD to be administered at the state level, again, because of our AIDS rates.
And those of us that follow the pipeline that's put out by the city planning department can figure out, who's in the pipeline and when they're going to, they have an estimated completion date at the following, at the far column. Those of us who are trying to put people into those houses are very aware of about the time they're going to finish the project, and I'm assuming that the city planning staff is following it even closer than I am. One last question. The other half of the real property transfer tax that goes to homeless programs, can you tell me, there's a separate, I assume after the budget passes, there'll be a separate RFP of some sort for the portion of that money, or will you fold it into other RFPs? I mean, how will the homeless funding within the real property tax take place?
So the component of the real property transfer tax for homelessness is administered at the city council level. That is built into our budget. The RFPs for services, which are the drop-in center, the administration of the city-owned homeless shelter, are under the city's 5-year strategic homeless plan. We are approaching year 5 of 5. That'll be the upcoming fiscal year. So we will be taking contract renewals for those service providers to city council probably in late June for execution with a July 1 effective date.
Yeah, I understand that the city will also be trying to figure out the rest of its homeless funding and probably integrate that portion of our money into their process. At least I'd recommend that. All right.
So that money doesn't, that component of the real property transfer tax doesn't come through the housing authority.
It's Kelly's. I mean, yes, I understand how they process. I just wanted to note that that's something we contribute to the homeless programs of Santa Rosa.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? So I have more commentary. So the impact fees, they're deferred until certificate of occupancy? Is that the trigger date?
I don't know off the top of my head if it's certificate of occupancy or a final inspection, but we can follow up on that.
Yeah, that kind of falls in line with connection fees for sewer and water, which is actually helping the affordability of especially housing so that those costs don't have to be paid earlier and have financing costs associated with those impact fees. I know it delays us, but in terms of keeping housing costs down, that's a good thing. And then the real property transfer tax gets increased 5% a year going into our fund, some of it housing and some of it homeless services. What percentage, and then the rest goes into the general fund. What percentage is that, right, for this fiscal year?
So we're getting 65% of the 3.5 million, so the 35% then is in the general fund.
How did the real property transfer tax forecast, how is that matching up for this year?
It's the same. They're keeping it flat.
Okay, so are we tracking for our budget numbers for property tax, transfer tax
Yes.
for 24, 25? Okay, that's good. That means that there's activity in the marketplace, and that's a good sign. Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Conti?
Yeah, regarding the housing trust, a lot of the conversation last year was about rehab, existing, rather than new development, and that's where our funding focused. I'm wondering how this connects with maintaining the housing participants at most risk, that connection between rehab and the housing trust, if there's any changes there, is there any benefits there? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I'm trying to process your question. So last year, and we'll do it again in the spring, a prioritization of how to use the affordable housing funds were prioritized towards rehab. The benefit of funding rehab for the entire community is that we're putting dollars into existing structures and improving the habitability and functions of those units. So you could say that there's a direct relation to our voucher holders and tenants throughout the city by improving the housing stock. It also lets us put those dollars to use quickly because funds are becoming more competitive at the state level for new housing developments. So we're able to make an impact on our existing housing stock. While we're not generating new units, we are seeing improvement locally. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, there's no real setbacks, though, from what you just said. There's no concerns there.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I'm just wanting to make sure that the housing trust, since, it's precarious with HUD and our funds, that it's really placed in a position that maintains what we're after. But it sounds like it is, according to your comments, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is precariously situated. So the Housing Trust is our division that funds and provides compliance on our affordable housing units. So that's the group that is working directly with developers who are looking to create new affordable units or are looking to take out loans to rehabilitate their existing units. And they also are doing the annual income certifications to make sure that those residents are financially qualified to live in those units. And then the voucher program, which is funded directly through HUD, is what's providing the ongoing rental assistance to that group of tenants.
Okay, I'm just wanting to emphasize the importance of the systemic long-term feasibility of the plans that you're making. But thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Not hearing any, we'll open up for public comment.
We are now taking public comments on item 5.1. You may state your name for the record if you choose.
Ready?
I am ready.
Hi, my name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland, member of the Sonoma County Housing Advocacy Group. I'm hoping that you folks will talk a bit about the HUD-VASH vouchers also. That's Housing, Urban Development, Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing vouchers. I'd like for you to go to the Veterans Administration website. The reason why, they just released a video in which they extol the virtues of this program under this administration. And they point out what the future may hold in a positive manner. One of the things that's really important is if these people at the federal level are saying this is a good program, you might be able to entice them to give you more for you here in our county. In a sense, it's a bit of a black box to try to find out the information about this program. I have the business cards for 6 separate licensed clinical social workers from the VA that work with this program here in this county. None of them have been able to tell me how many vouchers are available now for homeless veterans, how I can get a homeless veteran into a voucher program. Most of them don't even know about how you folks do most of it with project-based vouchers, which I'm not really supportive of a lot of times, because that leaves veterans that I know right outside right now waiting for the next rain to make their life more miserable. So I come here with the idea that maybe in these budget discussions, you folks will take it upon yourselves as the commissioners for the public to dig deeper into it, get as much information as possible, and share it as far and wide as possible, especially to the county, because the county has you folks, the city, as the purveyors of those vouchers. So the county gets vouchers, the city gets vouchers, but homeless veterans don't seem to get them. It's really a difficult situation, which I don't think should be that hard to understand. So this is why I come here, and I've been doing this for years now. This is easily the third or fourth year I've come here and said, hey folks, let's talk about these vouchers. Let's make them more available. Let's get them out there to the people that they need them right now. I could take you to a guy right out there right now that needs them, but you can't get it somehow to get him in off the street. I'll leave you with this. How about working with those Caritas folks who got a vacant lot over here at the old General Hospital site? It's just sitting there. Put up some tents, have them be warming tents, and let the veterans be in there. Veterans know how to be safe in tents. They understand that being outside is part of the deal. But if you give them tents and warming, then they might not come down with illness and be sick and have more problems in their future. So just give it a thought. It's kind of an imaginative thing. Why don't you go by the General Hospital on your way out of here and look at that nice big vacant lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on this item?
It does not appear we have any other public comment on this item.
And we will move to item 6, which is public comments on non-agenda items.
And guess what? I got another card. Thank you kindly for the opportunity.
You may
Hello. We ready again?
Go ahead.
My name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland, member of the Sonoma County Housing Advocacy Group. I wanted to talk with you about a possibility that you guys could really get behind, and that's called Senate Bill 4 for the state of California, passed almost 2 years ago, in which it makes it more possible for land that's owned by religious organizations and certain nonprofit organizations to be able to provide housing units that are affordable under current standards to a larger group of people, some of their employees and perhaps the general public. The idea is such a good one that they're saying down in San Francisco, where Scott Wiener, the state senator that put this forward, that it's a success. And yet I haven't seen any here in Sonoma County yet. So I'm hoping that you folks could be at the lead of this and say, wow, here's this opportunity. It's not from me, some neighborhood guy. It's from a state senator. It's a Senate bill that passed, SB 4. Dig deep into it. Look at how you could help people and have your staff especially become very conversant in it so that they would be able to help any of the potential advocates of this type of use to come forward and get something going. Most of them don't realize that housing authorities can help with the funding. They don't understand the dynamics of how to get here and get going on things. This is essentially an organization that does good work, but it's not as well known to the general public or to many of those organizations that aren't already geared into your funding stream and aren't already a part of your, some might call it the ecosystem, the milieu of the affordable housers of Sonoma County. The reason I bring this up is because this could be used now. SB 4 has been waiting, and I've never heard any commissioner in any way, shape, or form ever advocate for it anywhere yet. And I know you folks are volunteers, and I know it's not upon you to dig deeper into stuff. You just have to come and get your staff packet and go from there. But please, be proactive. take the time to get the news to use that'll make it better for us to get these people who need the affordable housing into the units as soon as possible. It could actually even stimulate the building industry. It could stimulate the social services. All kinds of good things could come from this if we could get it going. And it can't start with us neighborhood activists. We're actually looked at askance as bothersome folks. I don't mind that bother, though, occasionally. We need to have that discussion. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to coming back on other items.
Do we have any other public comment on non-agenda items?
We do not have any other public comment on non-agenda items.
We'll move to item 7 for approval of the minutes. And any commissioners there that have any amendments to the minutes? Not seeing any. We'll take public comment on approval of the minutes, item 7.1.
We don't have any public comment on on the minutes.
Thank you. We'll move to item 8, which is commissioner reports. Do we have any commissioners that have any reports? Okay, not seeing any. I would like to welcome our new commissioner, Greg Farr, and provide an opportunity for him to introduce himself and any brief remarks.
Thank you, Chair Owen. I'm Gregory Farron. I've been around a long time working with the Housing Authority. Long ago, I actually was an applicant on behalf of Community Support Network, and I built housing here in the county using money from the Housing Authority. So I'm fairly familiar from the point of view of the community, from the applicant community in particular. I'm also very involved in lately in behavioral health and the Department of Health Services at the county. So I think I have a unique kind of opportunity of being able to blend the knowledge that I get from the county with the activities of the city. We all in the community have often found that the siloed nature of some of the funding leaves a lot to be desired, and that community, county, and city feel very separate from each other. A lot of us have been trying to break those barriers and help a lot more integration take place, and I hope to do that. That's about all. I'm a very public guy. Most people know how to get a hold of me and bend my ear, but I hope to be an active member in the Housing Authority Board as much as I can.
Thank you, and we'll welcome, and I'm glad to have you on the board. Any other comments from Housing Authority? Let's see if we have any public comments on this item.
We don't have any public comment on this item.
Okay, we'll move to item 9, which is community reports. There any committee reports that we have? Not seeing any committee reports. We will see if there are any public comment on this.
There's no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. In item 10 is the executive director report, and Megan Bassinger will be presenting.
All right, good afternoon. First, I want to call to your attention that on Monday, February 2nd, MidPenn will be hosting the grand opening of the Mahonia Glen Apartments in Rincon Valley. You should have all received an invitation to that event. It's from 11 to 12:30. And MidPenn, the Mahonia Glen Apartments are located on the corner of Calistoga Road and Highway 12. I know that's one that people have been eager to get on their calendars. And then I would like to let you know that the January housing pipeline is attached for your review. The changes, as we've been doing the past few months, are identified in red. So the rehabilitation of Vigil Light Apartments, which is a senior complex off of 4th Street by the Safeway Shopping Center, has completed. And then we've also updated some of the completion dates for some of the projects that are funded and currently under construction. So that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioners have comments on the pipeline? Commissioner Smith?
it looks like the current projects under construction, the affordable units are the bonus density units primarily?
That is correct. The units that are shown, and this is the second set of cells on the first page, those are primarily density bonus or housing allocation plan units. If you go to the next page, we do have a handful of projects that have been provided funding or have been awarded funding. We have not committed those funds yet via loan documents, but those projects are still navigating through the funding process at the state level. So yes, Commissioner Smith, what is currently under construction is through the density bonus program.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Seeing none, we'll open it for public comment.
Let me get the timer ready.
Okay. Okay, there goes. 3 minutes. Good afternoon. David Harris. I was at one time sitting on the other side of the dais many years ago. But my question has to do with project-based vouchers. I see in the lower part of this report, which is the new construction, all zeros. And I'm interested in knowing, I've been an advocate for project-based vouchers because they have, at least in the past, I don't know whether things are changing, but in the past, the fact that a project would have a voucher was something they could take to the bank. And that opened up another source of funding for building new. So are these zeros because we are currently at the max under the regs of how many project-based vouchers can be issued, or what is the current status of the availability of project-based vouchers? I mean, the ones that we've heard about most recently were VASH vouchers were being given as project-based, but what about our overall picture of project-based vouchers? Thank you.
I would also like to make a comment. Ready? Hi, Dwayne DeWitt from Roseland, Sonoma County Housing Advocacy Group. This is just to correct a typographical error under funded acquisition, preservation, and rehabilitation. The West Avenue apartments at 1400 West Avenue are in Roseland. That's not the southeast quadrant, that's the southwest. I think you should correct that so that you're able to keep an accurate track of how many of affordable units are going over there. They've been there the longest, actually. They were built in the mid-'80s. Thank you kindly.
Any more public comment?
We do not have any more public comment on this item.
Megan, could you comment on the project-based voucher status, and if there's any availability?
Yes, so HUD allows housing authorities to project-base 20% of their vouchers, and then you can exceed that with HUD approval for special populations. We have hit the 20% cap, and I believe we are approaching 25%, which was approved through the Housing Authority. When we moved through our community development block grant disaster recovery funding in 2018, 2019, the Housing Authority simultaneously committed 100 project-based vouchers to those developments. So that was a significant number of vouchers we put into the community and tied to new development. So we're not seeing those show up on our pipeline anymore because we are at our maximums. We are also carefully balancing our financial situation and not overcommitting vouchers that we have. But we do have a list of complexes that have project-based vouchers assigned to them. Those also have separate waiting lists that clients can go through in order to access those units.
Thank you. And as a recap, when we did the project, the community development block grants DR, which is about $38 million, and then there was also 9% tax credit DRs, which was, I believe, about another $38 million. So that was a substantial amount of monies that went into your matrix that you have, the projects that are being completed, and some have already been completed for a while, so they've fallen off of this. The vast majority of those came from either the CDBG DR or the 9% tax credits, those DRs. There were a significant number of those units that benefited from those programs. So is that correct?
That is correct, and I'd say you can also see in the top of the pipeline, projects completed within the last 24 months, we still have 79 project-based vouchers that are showing up in that regard. The one project that was not associated with the disaster recovery projects is South Park Commons, and that was the reuse of the city's former senior center on the corner of Bennett Valley Road. We committed 30 project-based vouchers, and that's a development that benefits formerly homeless individuals.
Thank you. And again, so it's important to notice, while no one liked the fires that came through, but the amount of money that came in because of that has been filtering through the number of units that I've seen the last 24 to 36 months that are vastly superior to what we've seen in a long time for the city. Any other public comment on these issues?
It doesn't appear we have any more public comment on this item.
Okay, we have a commissioner question from Commissioner Farrow.
Yeah, this isn't a question as much as a comment. The three that we have already completed, Burbank, South Park, and Cannery, seem to me to also fulfill a need to get as low as possible income to extend subsidies down to the 30%, 40%. I'm pleased that it seems to me that those project vouchers assisted in that process. Those are three of the best, easiest to get real homeless into. So if that's the net result of using project vouchers, I want to make sure that they're used healthily, because one of the problems in housing in this county and this city is trying to get folks who come through the system of homeless care into the lowest level of affordability into the market. And those three are good examples of how we can do that and are doing it right now.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 11, which is consent items, and there are no consent items on today's agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Smith, you had a comment? I'm sorry. Mr. Conti?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick question. I might be wrong, but my understanding is the holdup with the VASH vouchers is that there's no funding for them. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. So we have 429 VASH vouchers that are allocated to our housing authority. Those individuals need to be referred to the housing authority through the VA's social workers. So those are direct referrals that come from the VA to our staff. So we are reliant on their staff to identify those veterans and then bring them to us for processing.
And just referrals from them is the only thing that's holding up getting people housed?
So yes, the VA provides us with the clients, and then we administer the vouchers once those clients have been identified and presented to us.
And there is enough money to cover those vouchers?
Correct, it's built into our existing budget, yes.
Any other comments? Commissioner Farron?
And I want to ask Dwayne's question, which is how many vouchers are unused right now? And if he's right and the social workers out there don't know how to get a hold of you, how can we fix that?
So I don't have the number that is not in use as of today. We do have a standing meeting where all of our housing authority technicians and the manager meet with VA staff on a monthly basis. So there is a direct connection that is ongoing. They do know how to reach out to our staff and are able to navigate through issues that as they arise. We can follow up with the number of vouchers that are currently in use at a later date.
Yeah, I want to strengthen that connection.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 12, report items.
So 12.1 is a report revision to prior award resolution clarifying the loan security for Zane Wolf Veterans Village. Rebecca Lane, Program Specialist, will be presenting.
Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rebecca Lane. I'm a Program Specialist with the Department of Housing and Community Services, and I am presenting today a request to revise a prior award resolution for Zane Wolf Veterans Village to clarify the loan security instrument. Zane Wolf Veterans Village is an existing 14-unit project located in northeast Santa Rosa, which received a conditional award of $489,228 in rehabilitation funding under the fiscal year 2025-2026 Notice of Funding Availability. The project is reserved for homeless veterans and was developed as part of an initiative by the County of Sonoma to demonstrate the efficacy of tiny homes in addressing homelessness and housing affordability to extremely low-income households. Community Housing Sonoma County, or CHSC, the developer, completed the project on a county-owned parcel in 2019. The county and Community Housing Sonoma County wish to continue operating the project, so CHSC applied for funds to complete the work that will be necessary to obtain a permanent use permit for the project. The resolution that approved the conditional award of funds stated that the Housing Authority loan would be secured by a deed of trust, which is part of the standard loan documents used by the Housing Authority. However, because CHSC does not own the land on which the project is built, they cannot enter into a traditional deed of trust. Instead, the loan must be secured by a leasehold deed of trust, and additionally, the regulatory agreement will be recorded against the leasehold. The change to the security instrument that was identified in the conditional award resolution must be approved by the Housing Authority. Therefore, the Housing and Community Services Department recommends that the Housing Authority, by resolution, approve a revision to the conditional commitment of loan funds in the amount of $489,228 to Community Housing Sonoma County for rehabilitation costs for Zane Wolf Veterans Village. The revision clarifies that the loan will be secured by a leasehold deed of trust. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Smith?
I'm just a little confused. Why is this project coming to us when it's a county project? I'm familiar with when this started, when the name Zane, that's Shirley Zane, was pushing for it. A lot of people were not, but I'm just curious, so why are we involved? Can you just kind of clarify that? That'd be great.
Sure. The initiative to get the project started was the pilot program for tiny homes was initiated by Sonoma County, and the parcel of land where the homes are built is owned by the county. The reason that we have gotten involved is because the project is located in city limits, and so the project applied for funding to complete the work to become a permanent project through our rehabilitation funds that were available in the fall. The awards were made in the fall of 2025.
So will this continue to fall under our domain control going forward and not the county anymore? I mean, I was just curious how that works.
Yes, the county will continue to own the parcel, and we will enter into a regulatory agreement with the developer, and the regulatory agreement, as it is drafted at this point, will extend through the term of the ground lease with the county, and will then be extended at the time that that ground lease is extended so that we achieve the full 55-year regulatory agreement.
Any other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Capio?
So currently, the lease is good till 2041, and then the 55-year agreement would be somewhere 2080 something, the 81.
Correct,
So
yes.
there's been a commitment from the county to extend the lease.
There is an existing lease through 2041.
41.
Yes, and the county has expressed that they are interested in extending the lease at the end of that term.
But it's not in writing.
Not yet.
Okay. Will it be? That the intention is that they'll extend?
We've started conversations with the county through the development of the loan documents with Community Housing Sonoma County. We have been in conversations with them, so we will bring that, to the table as part of the discussion.
Okay. And in terms of enforcement, a leasehold is slightly different than a deed of trust. Is it any more complicated if, in fact, we should experience a default?
Thank you, Commissioner Capio, for that question. It's not more complicated necessarily. It's just a different type of security, right? Instead of real property as security, you have the value of the leasehold instead of the value of the real property. So in that sense, you might be looking for a different buyer, as you will, but the process is not more complicated. It's very much similar to foreclosing on a deed of trust where it's secured by real property. Process is similar.
So the enforcement mechanisms are essentially the same?
Essentially the same. Yep.
Thank you.
Commissioner Farron?
As I understand it, this revision is basically making our loan conditional on their receipt of that approval. Is that the wrong way to say it?
The initial resolution where we conditionally awarded the funds, we're making a correction to that resolution just to clarify that the security instrument is a leasehold deed of
Right.
trust.
We said deed of trust, now we're saying a
Correct.
leaseholder.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I've got the motion, in case you...
Okay, so the lease matures, the ground lease matures in 41. So just for point of reference from the private sector lending standpoint, usually a bank could not lend on a ground leasehold interest unless the ground lease has a maturity 10 years past the maturity or the amortization of the loan. So the concern I have on this is that if the ground lease matures and is not extended, the property reverts back to the fee owner, which is the county, and would the county then, because the deed of trust would be on the leasehold interest, that leasehold interest is therefore wiped out. What happens to the deed of trust? I would assume it gets wiped out. As general counsel on that.
Certainly, the security that we have is based on the terms of the leasehold as it exists in writing today. So yeah, there is a risk that if it evaporates, our security interest evaporates, much more so than it would if we were having a deed of trust on real property. Yeah, that risk does exist. We certainly don't hope that that comes to fruition, given who the partners are, but there is a risk there.
What is the potential of getting the county to extend their ground lease at this point in time?
I'd refer to staff on that. I think they've had those conversations.
We have not, we don't have a date from the county in terms, to answer that question, we don't have a date that they're interested. We know that they are interested in extending the lease, making the project permanent. They're aware of the work that Community Housing Sonoma County is doing to make that happen, including entering into these loans with the city.
I mean, it would be very bad press for the county to not renew the ground lease, because if they didn't, then all the improvements would go away and you'd be displacing veterans. That's not good press I think any agency or county would want to have. I would still highly recommend that this Housing Authority works with the county and get them to extend that lease now to at least maturity, the proposed maturity of the deed of trust, the leasehold deed of trust we're talking about.
Chair, and I believe that is the case, that the originally approved terms of the loan were aligned with the leasehold. So we have what was approved in the original resolution went through 2041 and then provided the option to extend with any extensions of the lease.
So thank you for clarifying. I do remember that piece. Does the current deed of trust, or what would be a leasehold deed of trust, and the note mature prior to the expiration of the ground lease? I would not want to see it happen on the same date.
No, I'm sorry, the question is, our leasehold deed of trust, or what will be our leasehold deed of trust, and our regulatory agreements, those are, as they are currently drafted, set to expire when the ground lease expires, and also set to extend through the term of the extension of the ground lease.
The extension part is fine, but the maturity should be before the maturity of the ground lease. So that way that there's time to negotiate to either have the loans repaid or have the lease renewed, and then the loan maturity and regulatory agreement are extended. Can I have General Counsel comment on that?
Yeah, we are still in the process of drafting the leasehold deed of trust particulars, so we can certainly make that a part of our current drafting proposition. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, a month, something, just enough time to make sure. You don't want to have it happening on the same date.
Yep. Yep. Thank you very much for that piece of advice. We'll make sure to put that in there.
Okay. Do we need to amend the resolution at all based upon that?
I don't believe so, no. Really, this is an informational update for you and for the public, just to make that change between deed of trust and leasehold deed of trust. But again, the particulars of that deed of trust, the leasehold deed of trust, are still being drafted. And so I don't think we need to make a change to the resolution today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners? Not hearing, can we open to public comment?
You may state your name for the record.
Yes. David Harris, and I was actually in attendance at the September meeting, and so you're jogging my memory. As I remember, there are normally in making a loan, you would have an appraisal of what it is your security is, and that is not present here. And the loan is being made, as I remember, was to put lattices or really to get separation between those 14 units. So, a deed on the leasehold is the land, and we're talking about the fact the county owns that, but the borrower owns the improvements. Why not just limit this security to the improvements? Because these are tiny homes that are movable, and, leave the county out of it. They own the land, but who owns the improvements that were the original structures, and $400,000 that's going into supposedly improve those units, but I thought it was a pretty exorbitant amount to spend over $30,000 on visual improvements to those units. So, what is the value of the units that really are what I think you should be having a lien against? Is the units not the county's land? Or even the value, what would be the value of, 20 years of a couple of acres of lease on county land? I don't know if anybody would want to give you an appraisal on that even, but the structure should have an appraised value. So that's my comment.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Craig Meltzner. I'm an affordable housing consultant here in Santa Rosa, and I serve as the financial consultant to Community Housing Sonoma County, the current owner of the property, and Ross Liscombe and Keith Christopherson, board members of the CHSC board, should be attending by Zoom. I think I can answer a number of the questions that have been raised. I'd start out by mentioning that the suggestion from Chair Owens regarding making some slight adjustments in the term of the loan agreement and loan term relative to the lease with the county would be perfectly fine. No problems with that, and the logic behind it makes sense. I would like to clarify a couple things, though, with respect to both the funding and the long-term intentions of the project. The $489,000 that was approved by the Housing Authority for this particular effort primarily accomplishes three things. First, it actually pays the city deferred impact fees that were not collected when the tiny homes project was built. There were water and sewer fees and parks and community facilities fees that were deferred at that time. Community Housing Sonoma County, through their own resources, have paid the water and sewer fees. However, there's still $206,000 in outstanding impact fees for parks and community facilities that we intend to use this city funding for in order to be able to ensure the next 20, 40 years of operation of Zane Wolf, which is currently providing housing for 14 previously homeless vets with, by the way, VASH vouchers, which have come up in a couple times now in conversation about the city's efforts to house homeless vets. The second primary effort with the $489,000 is to replace the existing, what was at that time, temporary electric services. The project had been intended to just be present for 3 to 5 years. And so about $200,000 of that is to replace the electrical system with current permanent facilities. The trellis replacements is just a small part of obtaining those permanent use permits. I see that my time is running out, so be happy to answer any questions from the commissioners about the project from community housing standpoint.
Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Conti?
Yeah, wasn't there a third point where developing the property put it into a different standard of living, allowing for the funding or the loan, something along those lines?
I'll go ahead and answer that. So currently, the property was initially developed under a temporary use with the city, and these funds are intended to convert it to a permanent use. So that is why we need to upgrade the electrical that Craig mentioned and make the other improvements, such as the trellis. It's all to bring it from a temporary use into a permanent use and allow the continued occupancy by the 14 households.
Right, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? We have one more public comment.
Hello, my name is Dwayne DeWitt. I'm from Roseland, and I belong to the Sonoma County Housing Advocacy Group, and I support having those temporary units there. I believe the fees should be waived by the city. I believe we want to have more veterans housed, and that $206,000 could help us get more veterans housed. So I think the city should look at it like, hey, this is a positive, and this is a way we can make it a permanent. This is about paperwork, basically. This is about adjusting some definitions. It would be really nice for that $206,000 to go to Community Housing of Sonoma County to provide more housing for veterans. Thank you for your time.
Any more public comment? Or
It doesn't appear we have any more public comment on this item.
any more questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, we have a resolution ahead of us. Is there a motion on the resolution?
Yes. I'd like to move the resolution, revising the resolution that we previously adopted, clarifying our loan security for the Zane Wolf Veterans Village, and waive the reading of the text.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Conti? Clerk, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Fearon,
Yes.
Commissioner Conti,
Aye.
Commissioner Wimmer,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Capio,
Yes.
Vice Chair Downey is absent, and Chair Owen.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that this motion passes with 6 ayes and 1 person being absent, Vice Chair Downey.
Thank you. I'd like to call item 12.2.
12.2 is a report, approval of the transfer of ownership and assumption of all Housing Authority regulatory agreements, density bonus agreement, project-based voucher, housing assistance payments contract, and loans for Benton Veterans Village located at 1055 Benton Street. Coy Stewart, Program Specialist, will be presenting.
Hello, Commissioners, and I thank you for your time. Community Housing Sonoma County, CHSC, is selling 1055 Benton Street, known as Benton Veterans Village, which is a 7-unit apartment complex of affordable housing up to 80% of area median income. As for loans, the Housing Authority has a total January 31st of $2 million in loans, and that's including $1.5 million in principal and $480,000 in interest. A portion of the Housing Authority loans is funded by Federal Home Community Housing Development Organization, or Home CHODO funds. Although federal regulations require that the property be sold to another CHODO, HUD has granted the city a waiver allowing the state to allowing us to sell to PEP Housing, which does not have a CHODO designation. The city also has a loan that's totaling $1.1 million, and that is $895,000 in principal and $216,000 in interest. Along with the loans, the property has a regulatory agreement, a density bonus housing agreement until October 22nd, 2073, which is why we're asking for an extension of the loan's maturity dates to align with these agreements. The property also has project-based vouchers, housing assistance payments, and HAP contracts, and those are expiring in August of 21st of 2033. CHSC is winding down operations and entered into a purchase agreement with PEP Housing for the property. PEP Housing is a local nonprofit organization with a long-standing mission to provide affordable housing in Sonoma County. The organization demonstrates strong operational capacity and financial stability, managing 19 properties with over 670 units. 3 of these properties are in conjunction with the Housing Authority loans: Acacia Lane Senior Apartments, Linda Tunis Senior Apartments, and Village Lights Senior Apartments, which is a total of 116 affordable units. The state of the property and the assumption of all the Housing Authority and city loans and agreements, including the loan term extensions, require Housing Authority approval, and the Director of Housing and Community Services is authorized to execute any loan agreements needed for the city loan. Some analysis and additional funding other than the Housing Authority and city loans. There's a loan of a little over $1 million for the Cal Department of Housing and Community Development, a Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Program, or VHHP, and a $105,000 loan in Federal Loan Bank of San Francisco Affordable Housing Program, VHP. PEP Housing will continue to operate the property as affordable housing consistent with the Housing Authority's agreements. An approval of this item ensures the long-term preservation of affordability supported housing in Santa Rosa. And it is our recommendation to Housing and Community Services Department recommended that the Housing Authority, by resolution, conditionally approve the following for Benton Veterans Village, located at 1055 Benton Street. One, the transfer of the home ownership from Community Housing Sonoma County to PEP Housing or an affiliated limited liability company. Two, the assumption of the Housing Authority regulatory agreement, density bonus housing agreement, project-based vouchers assistance payment contract, and loans in the principal amount of $1.572 million, plus the City of Santa Rosa loan in the principal amount of $895,448 by PEP Housing or an affiliated limited liability company. And three, extension of the Housing Authority's loans and the city loan to October 22nd, 2073 to align with the terms of the regulatory agreement and density housing bonus agreement. That completes my presentation. I'll answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Smith?
Are these loans involved? Are they currently being paid, or are they being deferred or something like that?
Our loans are the additional loans.
The loans that you referenced on the property by the county, are they currently being paid? It's only a 7-unit property for a lot of money of loans, so what's the status of the loans at this point?
It's a 3% simple interest, so we're asking to extend it to match the regulatory agreement's expiration date.
Commissioner Smith, we have not received any residual cash receipt payments for these loans.
Commissioner Conti?
Is community housing of Sonoma County pulling out of other projects like this?
Correct. They're winding down their operations. So if you're curious about the item that was just before you, Community Housing Sonoma County is finishing up that project and is also working with a future buyer. But they are looking for buyers to keep the project stable and serve the populations through the continued loans and regulatory agreements.
Well, my only concern is, PEP Housing has got a strong track record around here. I love this connection they're making, pulling in here. But I'm worried about down the road, if at any point there's ever a resale. Is there anything that we can do to maintain the affordable housing guarantees beyond what's being set? Especially if it's purchased by a nonprofit?
So when we have properties that sell, if the loans are staying in the property, all of our debt and the regulatory agreement would be assigned and assumed by the new buyer. So they would be subject to the terms of that agreement for the remainder of the term. We've had prior instances where loans have asked to be extended, in which case we extend the regulatory agreement along with the term of the loan. So that's how we're able to continue the affordability. But this project, I believe, had an initial 55-year term, and we are less than 10 years into that term.
Yeah, I guess in general, I'm just wondering if some of these affordable housing projects that we back and we support, at any point that they are purchased by purchased outright, loans that we have agreements on and contracts with are taken and paid off, that there is a possibility that they could end up on market rate property, or is that just a possibility in any situation?
So regardless of if it was a nonprofit or for-profit developer, if our regulatory agreement's still in place, they would still need to adhere to that. We've also had instances in the past where even a nonprofit developer has paid off our loan, but the regulatory agreement stays in place. So that.
But it only stays in place till 2073, right?
But if they paid off the loan early, so if the loan was paid off, the regulatory agreement would still, if the loan was paid off early, so if they paid the loan prior to the end of the term, the regulatory agreement survives.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Do you have one?
Yeah, you don't get out of giving low-income people those properties just because you pay off the loan. I could have been a rich guy if I'd done that with CSN. You've got it. They gave you a loan, whether or not you can pay it off or not. Hopefully, we can build a whole lot more that don't have the wherewithal to pay off the loan during the life of it. But you're going to provide the services no matter what. No games.
And just to add to that, you've got two things going on here. You have a regulatory agreement which requires the affordability, and then you have financing. They are separate. So the financing could be paid off early by a for-profit or nonprofit, doesn't matter, but the requirements to keep that property as affordable is per the requirements of the regulatory agreement, and that does not go away until 71. Any other questions or comments? I'd like to go ahead and open up for public comment.
We're now taking public comment on this item. Please state your name for the record, if you please.
My name is Craig Meltzer. I'm here representing Community Housing, Sonoma County. We're in favor of the recommendations by the staff. Appreciate your consideration. And I will now make a comment not representing community housing, but representing my work of 40 years developing affordable housing. And that has to do with the nexus or link between the term of the regulatory agreement and the terms of the loan. And a number of my clients ask, well, what's going to happen to the loan at the end of the loan term? Are we going to have to pay this back? And if you recall from the figures that were presented by Mr. Stewart, over time, even 3% deferred loans accrue a significant amount of interest. And at the end of 55 years, that's likely to be much greater than the original loan principal. So here's what I advise our clients, and that is that the goal, there's a public purpose behind this housing. And so long as the developer owner is interested in retaining the housing as part of the affordable housing stock, which is certainly the objective of the public agency which provided the housing in the first place, there should be a meeting of the minds at the time that the loan comes due that the loan will be extended in conjunction with an extension of the regulatory agreement term. That accomplishes the objectives of the operation of the housing on an ongoing basis in serving low-income tenants. It ensures the ongoing viability of the loan and allows for the regulatory term to be extended so that the housing can remain in community use. So Chair Owen's point is well taken. The regulatory term and the loan are really two separate things. If loans are paid off, the regulatory provisions continue. But certainly the goal is that if at any point the loan matures and it needs to be repaid, that the community, the public agency involved, and the owner-operator will renegotiate both the loan terms and the regulatory agreement so that the housing can continue to remain in public use. Final point, again, there was earlier comments about the use of VASH vouchers. I would mention that Benton Vets Village is also a recipient and user of VASH vouchers for a homeless veterans project here in town.
You may proceed.
Okay, yeah, David Harris. I would just add to my earlier comment. I guess it's understood that the improvements on the site will be covered by that leasehold, even though the improvements are not leasehold, they are owned by the nonprofit. So that is part of the security that you're getting with the leasehold deed. But I mean, having seen that the process generally involves these loans not getting paid off. The reason the Housing Authority has a big balance in the housing trust is because that's holding the loans, and they most frequently get extended and again start accruing interest again, and they don't become liquid for the Housing Authority to loan the money again if it stays loaned on the same property. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment? Any more
It
comment
does
or-
not appear that we have any more public comment on this item.
Thank you, Chair. Any comments or commissioners, questions from commissioners? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion on the resolution?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that we, and waive the reading of the text of the motion, but to approve the transfer of ownership and assumption of Housing Authority Regulatory Agreement, Density Bonus Housing Agreement, Project-Based Voucher Housing Assistance Payments Contract, and loans for Benton Veterans Village at 1055 Benton Street.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Commissioner Smith, is this
I'll
second?
second the motion.
Thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Fearon?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Wimmer?
Yes.
Commissioner Conti?
Aye.
Commissioner Capio?
Aye.
Vice Chair Downey is absent, and Chair Owen.
Aye.
Let the record reflect that this motion passes with 6 ayes and Vice Chair Downey absent.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move to item number 12.3, which is election of officers. The Housing Authority bylaws section 2.04 states the Housing Authority board members must hold an annual election of officers. After public comments on item 12.3, I'll ask for Commissioner to make any motion to nominate members of the Housing Board for positions of chair or vice chair. Do we have any recommendations? Commissioner Smith? Yes, you can.
I'd like to nominate myself for chair. This is my, going into my 4th year. It'd be a pleasure to serve as the chair.
I'll second the motion, or the nomination of Commissioner Smith.
Any other commissioners want to make recommendations? I'd like to make a recommendation for Commissioner Capio for vice chair.
And I'll second that.
I will offer up again my position of chair if so voted. So I guess we have to go to public comment on this.
Thank you for being a volunteer. I appreciate all you do.
Let me get the timer ready.
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Unless there are continued motions and nominations, I'd like to close
So I think we need to call for a vote.
Yeah, I'd like to call for a vote.
Yes. I'd like to close the nominations and call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes?
So
So this is a motion to,
Can we clarify our
Motion-
Yes.
The motion I'd like to make is the nomination of Commissioner Smith as chair and Commissioner Capio as vice chair.
okay.
And I'd like to motion that chair is Jeffrey.
So you're nominating Jeffrey as chair?
Yeah.
So I believe that would be a second. It appeared to me that Chair Owen, did you nominate yourself?
yes, I did.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for Chair Owen as chair, and a motion and a second for for Commissioner Smith as chair, and one motion and second for Capio as vice chair. Yeah.
Can I clarify? Jeffrey as chair and Andrew as vice chair. Thank you.
Okay.
So we have 2 for each.
So how do we go? I'll ask for general counsel guidance on how we do this.
Chair first.
No, we usually vote on the second one first.
So under Rosenberg's, we would vote on the second motion first. And if that doesn't pass, we go on to the first motion. We could also do this by written ballot. How we do it is not in writing, so it just has to be clear, and there are a couple of options. So if you want to use Rosenberg's, which we often do.
So clarification, we have one motion for Commissioner Smith as chair, and who was vice chair under that one?
You know what I'm
Capio.
actually going to suggest is that we take chair and vice chair separately.
Okay, let's do
Yeah.
that.
I think that's what's causing some confusion here. So why don't we do chair first, and then we can move on to vice chair? Does that work for everyone? Okay. Let's start over with our nominations then. We have one from Commissioner Smith with a second from Commissioner Fearon. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
That's for chair.
For chair.
And we have one from Chair Owen with a second from Commissioner Conti. Oh, no, go ahead, Commissioner
Hate to
Wimmer,
interrupt here,
please.
but I would really like to know who I'm voting for. And I'm new, so I would like to hear from the candidates, maybe some experience.
Absolutely, agree. Chair Owen, do you want to continue? You can continue chairing, by the way.
Okay, so my background has been varied mostly in finance for affordable housing and commercial housing for market rate and all different types of commercial properties. I've been on the developer side, been on the banking side to develop that. I also have a family member who's going through and has gone through the whole homeless situation and understand the differences between public house, project-based vouchers and voucher systems. So I've seen this for many different angles. And I've been on the Housing Authority, I think, since 2018. I forget when I started, and have been chair twice in that period. Commissioner Smith?
I'm completing my 3rd year as a Housing Authority Commissioner. I've done a lot of volunteer work in the nonprofits, working with the United Way of the Wine Country, doing income taxes. I've worked with Alzheimer's Group. So this was a good opportunity to give back to my community in the public domain. And I've attended 3 years every public meeting except one. And it's been a great learning experience. I don't have Commissioner Owen's background, but this is a matter of just running the meetings rather than the specifics.
So I guess we'll go to call for a vote through the clerk.
Okay, so we're still going to need to work out which motion we're voting on first.
We're voting on the motion for chair.
Correct, and we have 2 motions and 2 seconds. Go ahead, Commissioner Fearon.
Yeah, we have 2 different ways of voting, okay? Robert's rules or, the kinds of process you're talking about would take the second motion, first motion, the whole process. I'm more familiar with the way the city council votes for its process, which is not a sequential voting, but a tabulation of, who you vote for, starting with 3 candidates down to 2, down to 1. It's unfair to some degree to say, from my point of view, gosh, Gregory, you should have waited for the second motion, because if I'd made the motion secondly, I would have gotten the first chance at voting for somebody. I'd like to take these two candidates, both of them excellently, and have the council vote on them, meaning vote, in this case, since there's two candidates, we each get one vote, and we see who gets the vote. You know, who gains 4 votes or whatever it is. That's a more, to me, that's a fairer way of treating them both fairly in a single vote. I don't want to vote for one before the other. It just seems to me that's an unfair process that simply falls on who got voted first and who got, or nominated first and who got nominated
Commissioner
second.
Fearon, I'll stop you. I completely agree. The council did recently change their voting practices, actually, to deal with this issue.
Yeah.
And they're now writing their votes down. We don't have to necessarily do that, but I agree with you. Let's do whatever is the most fair. So is everybody okay with that? Each commissioner gets, there's 2 nominees. Each commissioner votes for 1. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And does that make sense to you, Clerk? Okay. Great. Carry on.
Commissioner Wimmer?
You went vote.
Andrew?
Commissioner Smith?
Myself?
Commissioner Fearon?
Commissioner Smith?
Commissioner Conti?
Jeffrey?
Commissioner Capio?
Commissioner Smith?
Vice Chair Downey is absent. Commissioner Owen?
Abstain.
Chair Owen?
Abstain.
Abstain. So let the record reflect that Commissioner Smith will now be the chair of the Housing Authority Board for the next year.
So I'm going to just clarify that there were 4 affirmative votes for Commissioner Smith. That is a majority of the board.
That is
you.
correct.
Thank you. Thank you all. And now I believe Commissioner Smith can take over for the second round. Is that how we do it?
We could, Commissioner Smith, if you are comfortable proceeding with voting for vice chair, you may proceed with that process.
Yeah, I'd like to call a vote for the vice chair. I was nominated, but of course, I'm chair, so I'd like to have a vote for Commissioner, sorry, your last name? Capio? We can do that. That would be perfect.
Are there any other nominations besides Commissioner Capio? If not, I don't think you need a vote. I think it's Commissioner Capio.
Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Capio is now our vice chair for the next year.
And then Commissioner Owen, can you provide, Commissioner Chair Smith, do you have the annotated agenda? There's some additional language for the adjournment today that I would like read into the record, please. Commissioner Owen is going to give you some language to read into the record.
I would like to adjourn the meeting. Okay. I would like to adjourn the meeting in honor of the late Douglas Friedman, who served a 2-year term as Lieutenant Commissioner for the Housing Authority from August 8th, 2023 to August 8th, 2025. During the meeting. What you didn't want to do, get involved. He said that the last time we were here. He said he didn't have time. That's right. Typical politician, huh?